And we're live. All right. Good to see you, Joseph. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We're talking about getting to hell yes. And so for everyone's context, we've got Joseph here from Gatewise talking about their hell yes and their sales experience. Why it's important to listen is like, not only does it give us a chance to talk about what the sales journey feels like from a sales perspective, from a buyer's perspective, it's insightful. We're getting feedback that it's insightful to hear about how sellers are thinking about the new market and how the way people are buying today. And the premise of getting to hell yes is that it's not a persuasion game anymore. It's kind of like a fit and a problem solving game. And buyers often need to know what they're looking to solve for. And we as sellers need to be able to show them what's possible so they can begin to prioritize. So the modern sales funnel isn't just us talking and persuading people to do things that are uncomfortable. It's about us finding people that are seeking to solve problems that they may or not know all the alternatives that are available, and how we as sellers help them solve their problems. So really it's like unblocking and solving problems versus like, you know, kind of the classic sales, the Glengarry, Glen Ross thing, always be closing. So kick it off, Joseph. Tell us a little bit of your background. How did you end up in this role at Gatewise? And what's the problem you guys solve in the market?
Yeah, thanks for having me, sir. Joseph Knaack here. I am the director of sales of Gatewise for their West Coast team. And how I started in property management was about 8 years ago as a leasing agent in Irvine, California, typical garden style community, and just kind of fell into it. And from there, got picked up by another property manager to do a few lease ups in California, and had some great lease ups done in my on-site career. And a couple years ago, hopped over to this side and landed at Gatewise through the mentorship group with Tara. Joe was my mentor. There was a role that came up and landed the role here at Gatewise. And now I'm helping properties across the West Coast upgrade or add an access control solution that eliminates clickers, call boxes, and fobs, works off cell signal in the cloud. So we primarily service the class B, C, D assets, the 85% of the industry that's often forgot about, but needs some help getting a new tech solution to upgrade from those old phone line systems that may not be working anymore. They might have a tech that's you can't get a hold of because the company's out of business. There's a lot of different profiles for clients that we serve, and we can eliminate a lot of the headaches and issues they have with their current access control solutions.
So what happens if they don't solve their access control problem?
Just turned into a bigger headache. It's a waste of human or like labor resources. It costs a lot of money. There's a lot of hidden costs that owners and managers may not see that they're losing when they don't upgrade their system. For example, one of our clients, before they switched to Gatewise, their provider was asking them to run around the community and find this special room and figure out where this wire or this modem is. Took them all day and they never found it. So like imagine that day being back on that leasing agent's desk, being able to follow up with people, get leases, renewals, and just move the property in a profitable position.
And presumably, I mean, if you want to do self-guided tours, if you don't have access control, that's kind of a non-starter.
Correct. It's Gatewise is unique that we're an access control solution first and foremost. We're in about 2,000 communities throughout the United States, approaching 500,000 units. And through the Access Control Foundation, we're able to offer an offline unit lock self-guided tour option that could be just plug and play on a vacant unit as it comes available. And a couple clicks in the dashboard, you're able to offer a fully self-guided tour option to your prospects and guests, and embed a link right into your website. No internet needed, no I forgot what those are called, those key boxes needed to get a special code to unlock that's tied to a gate. It's all through a smartphone, through the cloud, and controlled all through the dashboard that an admin just logs right into.
So when you guys are hooking in to, or I'll say creating awareness for your solution, do you find that you've got more pull on the revenue problem, as in getting leasing, enabling self-guided tours, or is it on the cost side? Like why are they committing to change? Are they trying to solve the cost problem, or are they trying to solve a revenue problem?
More so costs, because like I said, the hidden costs that come with a broken access control solution aren't just like
Yeah.
the labor costs, it's the service costs, it's the replacement costs, it's all those things add up where when we have prospects and clients come in, oh, your monthly cost is too expensive. Well, let's just take a look at the past 6, 9, 12 months of what you've actually spent on people coming out to fix your solution. And when we break it down that way, we're much more affordable on the year, the annual basis than a lot of these solutions that are broken and not working right now.
Do you find like one thing that we hear in the show, and I'm starting to feel this myself in our sales conversations, is that when it's a cost savings, it feels as though they can drag on a little bit versus when it's a revenue positioning. Right now, we're actually actively changing our positioning to revenue positioning. Keep renters renting, right? Like that's keep renters renting is like oh yeah, I got to do something about that. Versus save time and resources. How do you create, and this is the concept of a time wall. How do you create urgency, or how do you seek urgency in a buyer for a cost value prop?
Yeah, I think the big challenge going back to that is like dollars out versus dollars in. You always want more dollars in than dollars out at these
Yeah.
properties. So when our monthly cost may be more expensive and there's an objection, we give them time and just keep following up. The the win is in the follow-up, because there's going to be more issues where their solution breaks again and they have another headache. And I'm
Yeah.
just saying, hey, we're here to help you, not trying to sell you, just like a couple $100s a month, and we could have a solution, completely get rid of your headaches. But sometimes it takes 3, 6, 9 months, some deals before I was even on board with the company are closing now because they're finally realizing, hey, we can't do this anymore. Let's
Yeah.
spend the few $100s a month. So it just really depends. We also have communities and partners that are like, hey, we just took over this asset. One of our favorite types of clients is clients that are in acquisition mode right now, buying assets where they have an existing access control solution that may be on the fritz, but when they bought it, it was working. But now that they're operating it, it's broken. Hey, Joseph, can you come by, take a look at the property, look at our infrastructure? What's it going to cost for Gatewise to come in and completely rip and replace
Mhm.
and add your solution?
Do you ever find like they come to you or they start looking for solutions because something kind of like catastrophic happened, like someone broke in, or I don't know, like what will be a risk that access control solves?
I mean, part of our solution is we like one risk that we're helping our clients is we have a cell-based camera that hops onto a
Mhm.
vehicle gate and eliminates that risk of not knowing who might have come and damaged and hit your gate overnight when nobody's on site and could see that. And a damaged gate, to fix that when you don't have any resident to go after, is a $15,000 expense that an ownership group isn't expecting.
Right.
So right there, having a cloud-based camera that can clip every vehicle that's going through your access control and push it to the cloud, it's already there for you.
Gotcha. So that's an interesting segue. So does that segue into the kind of properties you guys sell best to?
Yeah, I mean, for our gate cameras, obviously they're going to need a vehicle gate to
Yeah.
sit on with our access control solution. So garden style vehicle gates, one or two maybe throughout the property,
Yeah.
couple access points on doors as well. We're not just a vehicle gate access control solution. We'll hop onto any pedestrian gate or building door that has an electrified strike, mag lock, and some low voltage power. So, you got your CapEx budget approved
Mhm.
for the year. One of its access control, a few $1,000s to throw towards access control. Gatewise can get a solution up and running for a few $1,000s a door if there's no system there. But if they already have an existing solution, we're like a $700 investment, hardware and install each access point. That's it.
Yeah. Do you find that so then given that price point, who is your hell yes buyer? Like who do you like to target in the market?
I'd say regionals are some of our strongest buyers.
Yep.
because they have a little bit more approval with a more budget. But if some of our partners, their managers can make decisions less than $2,000 total spend, where our
Mhm.
system can come in and they could just make a decision. But regionals really strong for us, asset managers, and even high level, like VP level or C level folks in our industry. We try to do the bottom up and top down approach where we prove value to the regionals, property managers, first and foremost, because they're the
Yeah.
boots on the ground. They're the one living with the headache every single day. And once we have value and like enough case study, really, we'll approach the C levels, high levels, and say, hey, did you know we're working with your properties here? Here's how we could help on a broader portfolio. Open a chat.
Yeah. And so do you say, so then given that, like the roles you just defined, do you guys sell best into the managers or into the owners?
Hmm. It's a it's a unique question because we have deals with just owners that have different management companies operating
Sure.
their portfolio. So they'll say, all right, we're taking on this asset. We're going to add this. We're going to add Gatewise here.
Gotcha.
But we also have a lot of success selling to the property management companies themselves.
Right. Is there any complications with when you sign? Because like one of the things that we hear selling to the property management companies. So for sure, we're also in the same spot, right?
Mhm.
Trying to figure out who to sell to first. And one of the things that we're learning is that like, especially the way that our product works is that, it does have a change into the allocation. Like, so any sort of property management agreement might need to be addressed when they bring an iris, like, is that something that you need to deal with?
Not really. I
No.
think our solution is a need to have. So, like, say, an acquisition is coming on and we're not with a new management company that's acquiring an asset, they're not going to completely replace their access control with the solution. They're going to keep us and add us to their vendor compliance to make sure that we're still up and running day one and there's no issues.
Do you find that that's like in that case, um, some of the folks like not having that alignment, does that create deals to slow down? Like, how do you speed that up? How do you solve that problem?
Not alignment between who?
Like between
Like,
the owner and the operator, like when you've got to go and navigate the owner versus the operator angle, like when you're pitching to a manager, does that have different um, pull points than if you're pitching to an owner? Or
yeah,
the
I think it
same?
depends. I think it depends on where the deal cycle is. Like if we're further along with an ownership group saying they want this, then it's more so, hey, property management company, we've been working with ownership group and they're looking to implement Gatewise throughout their portfolio.
Mhm.
Here's the properties you manage that we'll be starting with. Boom, 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 set out like an outline for the properties. But with property management companies, there's definitely like selling into them and they go up to the owner, a lot more of a delay, a lot more of a delay. And that point, what we could really do is just provide value, follow up, case studies. Hey, did you see this review we got from a recent client who switched from one of those traditional phone line systems to us? There's
Do you find that like, so if I'm a property, so I'll kind of split the cases up and explore a little bit. So if I'm a owner and I've acquired some property or some, what am I, what am I typing into Google? Like, what am I searching for as far as a problem to solve?
an access control solution,
Yeah.
cloud cell-based access control solution is really big for us. We are one of the only cellular base that really doesn't require much of an infrastructure if it's already there.
Yep.
So, retrofit access control solution if an ownership's looking at making a decision. So look at some vendors for a property management company to vet and look at. It really depends on the asset class, though. If the ownership group bought a Class A lease up that just stabilized and has all the nice bells and whistles, they might already have like maybe just one or two access points that they need to get fixed that we can come in and help with too. If it's an ownership group that wants to unify their complete access control solution to give everyone the bird's eye view because they're really leaning towards that efficient, more centralized
Yeah.
model, Gatewise could be that solution as well. Because everything is all in one dashboard. you get a bird's eye view of the portfolio level, and clicking into your property, you get a bird's eye view at that exact property level too.
So are the managers trying to solve the same problem, or are they coming at it from a different angle? Like, are they trying to like?
Managers, I think they have a different problem. They just want to control who gets into the property and see who gets into the property when any access point is engaged.
Yeah,
And if it's possible, create an integration with the property management software so they could literally set it and forget it and never have to think about adding and removing a resident as their status changes in that property management software.
right. So they're gonna Google the access control search query, but for a different reason.
Correct.
Gotcha. Do you
Like
guys
like
go ahead? Go ahead.
we've been finding that some of our demos are coming from people using ChatGPT. Yeah.
Explain that. Tell me how that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like some of our homeowners associations, their board members are having their property management companies reach out to us and book demos through just asking ChatGPT, what are some access control solutions that could replace X? Or
Interesting.
yeah, it's been really cool. And when I share that with the team, we're all like, what the heck? That's crazy.
Yeah. I gotta see if we come up with GPT. But you never know, like when you get your own GPT, if you actually are like if they're mining your result sets or if they're mining the publicly available result sets.
I would like to believe this lead came through the publicly.
Publicly available, right.
Yeah,
I'm trying
because
to
it
show me
was a
how I would even
homeowner's
test,
association.
like how would I even test that? That's so cool. When you guys are, which isn't fault, goes to a great next question. How are you guys? And you were telling me a bit about this on at NMHC last week. How do you guys bring in leads? Like, how do you guys go to market from a top of funnel side of things?
Oh, great question. So we've got account-based marketing strategies that we're working with SDRs, territory specific that we're targeting as well. You know, one of the recent conversations I had yesterday with my SDR, Olivia, we noticed a lot of specific branded apartment buildings were booking a lot of demos with us. So we went into our data platform, pulled all of the properties that have that specific branded name and came up with a strategy to reach out to them, and we're booking meetings with them, and we're finding they're spread across all types of property management companies. So it's going back to one of those like points you talked about earlier, is like how are we approaching them? Well, this way we're approaching them via the management companies. If we have it,
Mhm.
or if we have properties on board already, we're leading with that. Some of our messaging will have unique messaging like, hey, this property signed up with Gatewise and has XYZ access control. Why don't you have it? Make them
Yeah,
kind of feel like they're missing out. And I'm super confident that as these demos come through, more of the brand will close. And then eventually we'll take that up to the ownership group and say, hey, did you know that we're actually in 15% of your properties? Would it hurt to talk about a master pricing
enterprise.
agreement?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you guys do? Are you able to do demos remotely, like on a Zoom call, or do you have to be in person?
Remotely is we could do them remotely. There's often some confusion where people think we're coming in person because
Sure.
it's access control.
That's
It's like a
that's what I was
physical
asking.
object. Yeah. So there's just clarifying sometimes that we need to get done on our end,
Yeah.
but we can do everything virtually. But I'm in Phoenix and about 45-minute to 2-hour flight away from anywhere in my territory. So, you know, we're totally willing to get out and get our hands dirty, go see, touch, feel the communities to get a
Yeah.
real sense of what's going on, because access control is like it's the underlying like base of a property that if it's working, nobody thinks about it. It's just
Yeah.
smooth. But if it's not working, it's a headache for so many people on site that sometimes I'm like, wow, you're dealing with that. Like you're actually dealing with that. That's how you program a fob.
I was talking to Amy Pavato last week, and we were supposed to talk about something else. We were in a live, and she just went off on like managing keys. She was like, she used to manage keys, and she had like the key, and because you can't write the number of the unit on the key, so she had like this like like Enigma code, like like some sort of like uh, lookup for the key number on the key and the unit number and how many copies were out there and who signed them off. And it was like, it does sound like a whole lot of make work that doesn't add any value at all.
And like, hey, give me your ID as a vendor because I need to have your ID while you go and do your work in this unit. And then the vendor leaves, has the key, you have their ID. That's a whole nother mess
Yeah.
that you don't want to deal with as a property manager. And like those are the little things that fobless, remoteless, keypadless like system gets rid of. It's all through a smartphone now. Like everybody is living in their smartphones.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, and like kind of the anxiety you get when your battery's about to die and your Uber hasn't arrived yet. What when they go to look for a solution, like what other solutions do they look at? Like for when they're kind of like when you find yourself in a deal, who are you competing? What do you compete against? Is it keys? Is it not doing something? Like versus competitor side of things? Like what could they do otherwise than put in access control?
Spend a lot more money for cameras to then see who's coming in at any time. But I guess our biggest competitor we're always up against is, I'd hate to say it on the call, but BMX.
Yeah.
They come in conversations a lot and they are really cool and neat and flashy product. Like I understand why people want it. I actually have it at the property I live at and I let my dog sitter through it and whatnot, but it's an expensive solution. And money is tight right now across the board. We're not coming across a lot of property managers or teams that are like, we have a limited budget to completely replace our access control solution. It's very tight right now, super, super tight. So, they're one of our biggest ones. And then obviously like the phone line, traditional systems with call boxes.
Yeah.
There are big competitors as well, but I wouldn't say they're competitors. They're just well-known names because we
Like a call
often,
box? How's a call box? Like what you have at the bottom of the elevator? Like the
or
one
like a building door or like a vehicle gate. Like, yeah, those call boxes that are on traditional phone lines. Like,
really?
yeah, in some
People,
markets,
people
those are
are
still
installing. Are they installing those right now, or are they just living with them?
both. Actually, we have new
Really?
development deals that come across that say, hey, we're installing this system, this phone line system here. And we're like, hey, hold up. You
Yep.
don't have to do that. I would recommend not doing that. Here's why. So, but what I found with these developers is they're used to what they know.
Yeah.
And Gatewise is a pretty new solution where sometimes they're like, I didn't even know this existed. And in development, I'm not sure if you've sold into a lot of new development, but plans are made like years in advance.
Yeah.
So to come in and say, hey, we're actually going to change an access control solution right before you're going to install what was approved a couple years ago, it's a tough battle.
Interesting. So do you find that, but if you're ultimately the owner of that property versus the developer of that property, like you don't want to be stuck with a system that's outdated the day you turn, day zero.
Correct.
So how do you get in front of those kind of customers and or prospects and let them know what's possible?
We research on the ownership group, ask questions, the developer, who's the ownership group, can you make a connection so we can just at least introduce and educate them
Yeah.
on this? We want you to make the best decision for the performance of your asset, and we would be doing a disservice if we didn't at least tell you what Gatewise is.
And do you guys use like ALN or CoStar, or how do you get, what data do you guys, what provider do you prefer to use for that connection channel? Okay. You don't have to,
No,
if
I'm joking.
it's secret sauce, I don't want you to reveal the big numbers.
It's not a secret sauce. We have a combination of a lot of things. Thankfully here, Gatewise and Joe, he's super supportive on getting us the things we need to be successful. So ALN's big for us though. We use
Yeah.
ALN a lot.
I've heard a lot of ALN, a lot of people talking about like how successful, how it's changing their business.
Like there's a lot in there, and that's the data enrichment platform that I use to pull that branded portfolio to talk with my SDR and plan our attack.
Do your competitors also use an SDR outbound motion? Like it's funny, like we're talking for when we were at MHC last week. When you're talking about SDRs, I have not heard a lot of people use that language in like around the prop tech space, which sounds crazy. but I haven't heard that. Is that unique to you guys, or is that something that you brought from somewhere else, or are you pretty? Have I just not had the conversations?
Oh, good question. I mean, the SDR team in motion was here before I got here.
Yeah,
It'll be a year in like a week, but um, I don't think there shouldn't be an SDR motion in our space. It just might not be executed properly or well, more on a like a volume scale rather than like a aim small, kind of miss small mentality.
right.
Thankfully, Olivia, the SDR I work with now, her and I worked together a couple companies ago in the same space. So we like work well together
Yeah,
and we just know the industry. Like we know how to like send a message, who we're gonna target, why we're gonna target them, figure out our ICPs. So really fortunate that she decided to come and join us over here.
that's outstanding. I do acknowledge that. Like we're about to kick off with an external SDR company, and one of the things that I'm preparing for is really honing in on the language, because we're gonna do a couple campaigns that are specifically targeted about the recognizing what I've learned in the last, like, I don't know, 12 months, around like there are certain things that are pain points for certain prospects and certain pain points, and it's different. Like if I'm targeting multifamily, that is a different pain point than targeting BTR and SFR. And it's just not property management anymore. It's like there's specific things they're trying to solve, because the intensity of the pain point, like the generic pain point, isn't a priority,
Hmm.
but the specific pain point is intense, and they're trying to solve that. So if I want to solve, here's an example. Like if I wanted to target a multifamily campaign or just a property management campaign, just like even more generic, and focus on everybody and just talk about resourcing your units, like that is can be washed away. I'm going to spend a lot of time for people that aren't looking to change something. But if I say just specifically the 1 to 100 rule for maintenance techs, right? But if I want to target people that are like have like an average of like 55, 60 units per property, then they're going to have that an intensity around the pain more so than those that have like an average of 400 units per property.
Hmm.
Because at 400 units per property, you have the revenue to be able to support multiple maintenance techs. But at 55 or maybe 150, you don't have enough to follow the convention of the numbers. So you're kind of like you're it's learning about that focus to be able to target the right messaging. I had a great conversation with Zeke from Funnel Leasing last week. Do you know
Hmm.
Zeke?
Dude, Zeke is my man. Yeah,
I
Zeke and
think
I are great friends.
we met together, and then Zeke and I went for lunch.
Nice.
Is that how it worked?
Maybe, I don't know, but Zeke is a great guy, brilliant guy, actually. If you want to know about like cold calling, messaging,
Yeah.
SDRs, he's the guy to talk to for sure.
Yeah, we sat down and like it was awesome. We had an awesome call and or chat, sorry, and basically split a burger and not split a burger, had a burger each and went through it. And he was laying down the numbers, and I was like, "This is spectacular." You know, I'll catch up with him again later. I sent him a note after an MHC to see what he's doing. I have worth a follow up. Um, so so then what you would have heard so far is that you guys like the kind of like the non-traditional targets. So the B's and C's, you're bringing in the an access control solution that fits within their budget. You're looking for people. You look for just properties in that, or owners or managers in that space. Different pitches for each. You They don't really have a time wall, but you're constantly reminding them of the pain that they're living through from a cost perspective, and the message is different for a manager than it is for an owner. What objections do you typically hear?
You're too expensive because they're used to paying $25 a month for a system that's constantly broken.
Right.
Like, come on. You're paying $25 a month, but why are you paying that if it's broken? You know, like and with our monthly costs, we have a lifetime warranty. So as long as you're a paying customer for Gatewise, you're never going to get a service or support invoice. And we've got a 30-day out. So if you're not happy with your service, just give us a 30-day notice and we'll even refund you your equipment. if you're really not that happy. But we're confident in our solution that it's the best solution to retrofit or add access control to any solution or any community that's looking to upgrade or add it.
Interesting. So then so you mentioned like the alternative of like the $25, like what do they have for 20? What does $25 get you? You can't even go to,
It gets you like a phone line that's not working at a call box
yeah,
that every one of your guests drive up to and try to use that doesn't work.
gotcha. So it's
Like
$25.
imagine being a prospect, driving up to a community and going to like a call box to get into the office to go tour. Like the call box doesn't work. That's not a good first look.
No, you're walking away. You're going buzz, but this is the buzz, 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 and then you're out.
Yeah, like I'm not touring here. Skirt.
Yeah. Later. Do you find that, like, is that part of your, like when you go to certain units that have the call box system, like what's your question? How do you dig in on that? Like, how do you let them get, like, what kind of questions do you ask that have them reveal that the $25 solution is really costing them $2,000 a month?
Tell me how you program a resident access now.
Yeah.
You know, like how are you tracking or looking to see who comes in and out of your community? And usually those two questions will open up what they have going on and if the solution's actually working or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Do you
if
ever,
they're like, oh, we don't program people, we just give them this fob that we think works. And because based on historical like experience it worked, but they'll tell us if it doesn't work or we don't. We just give out the same code to everybody and everyone uses the same code to get in. Yeah, like there's properties that do that out there. It's because their owners aren't used to spending a couple $100s a month when they've just been okay with how things are operating now.
well, it's kind of risky. I mean, like, all of a sudden, I mean, a tenant, I mean, in a world where you got 50% tenant resident turnover, like that code is everywhere. Like, it's kind of
Exactly.
like you've got like, if you've got 100 residents right now, like you've got 150 that know the code
Yeah.
because
And
50% of
then
them
it's
left
like,
last year and they're the same code.
and how do you have visibility into who's using that code? You don't, because codes are also shared with friends and guests and
Yeah.
neighbors and whatnot. So it's eventually that code is like useless.
Yeah. You may as well have it open.
Exactly.
Do you ever ask that question? Like, how many people know the code?
Yeah, I've asked it before. And some responses are like more people than we want.
And then
Yeah.
what's your next question after that?
So like why are we waiting to get Gatewise installed? A couple $100s a month, $700 up front.
Yeah.
You completely control who comes in and have a bird's eye view of what and who's coming into your community.
And protecting that risk of like who's coming in your community.
Exactly. You control it all from a dashboard. Like I log into a website and see everything, control everything. I want to leave a gate open during office hours, couple schedules, click, boom, it's there.
Do you ever get people who are so convicted that their existing solution still works is the best choice?
Yes, but that typically comes from ownership groups who don't want to spend
Okay.
the like $20,000 that it is to upgrade their system. Like couple months ago, our installation partner and I went and visited this property. We did what's called a prep work case where we go in, look at all of their desired access points, and if they have the infrastructure there, great. If they don't, our installation partner will quote that infrastructure needed so then
Mhm.
they have the true scope of cost for the project. This property manager literally told me nightmare stories about their current solution. The owner unfortunately bought a battery operated lock solution where each of these locks at the property need to operate off AA batteries getting replaced constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he thought or they thought, I don't know if it's a guy, but they thought um that their solution was an electrified strike solution, and it wasn't. So we had to be the bearer of bad news, say, hey, we've got a quote for you, approximately $20,000 to get all these access points up and running and unified on Gatewise, eliminate your headaches, integrate with your property management software, and create a better resident experience. And he still said no. He said, no, I think it works fine. So this manager's like changing batteries constantly, kind of reprogram fobs that don't work.
Yeah.
Part of these access or these systems or these points are not even online and working. So she's stuck like holding all the burden of the broken system because the ownership group thinks it's okay.
Well, that's the one, like that's the part of like the cost side of things, or maybe selling to people who are cost center managers that I still have yet to figure out is that, like it's the pain of change, like one time exceeds I'll say the perceived pain of change exceeds that dull pain that they feel every day, because what they think might happen versus what's happening prevents
Mhm.
them from committing to change. Like it's very obvious that batteries are risky, that it's all radio frequency, it's like all that stuff. That is not the right solution. Anybody would, a fifth grader will tell you that. But it's that reluctance to change because and digging in on why they won't change is almost as interesting as finding somebody that will change, because you get into
Mhm.
like bizarre reasons as to why. Now it could be priority. We just can't deal with that right now, or we just deployed some
Mhm.
technology, and that's what our residents are dealing with right now. But often it's just like a complete unwillingness to change. And and I used to try and like persuade them,
Mhm.
but now I just say, I don't think we can solve your problem. If I used to when I used to try to position a solution, like a solution centric approach, I wanted to position a solution to their problem, but or what I perceived their problem, or what I guessed the problem was, versus actually solving. And now that I'm like, we take a more problem centric approach to it. If they don't articulate the problem we solve, it's so much easier for us to walk away, because it's just going to be agony for me to try and get them to change. Because if they haven't articulated in their mind that it's a priority to change to a new way, I'm not the one that's going to make them do that. There's no planet on earth. There's no way that I'm going to be able to do that.
I think you're right, and your product is very unique that it's maintenance focused, correct?
Yeah.
And maintenance focused, we know there's a shortage of talent in the industry on the maintenance side. So a lot of the skilled workers in our and tradesmen in that space, they're a little bit older. They're going to be a little bit more reluctant to change
Yeah.
technology because they have their way. Oh, I've done it this way. It just
Yeah.
works. I got my system down after I do a work order. I print it out, write my notes, upload the notes, whatever it is, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
um,
Oh, totally.
but the owner operators that are future mindset, like future proofing their assets and understand, are the ones that I really enjoy working with. Like
Mhm.
really enjoy working with because they just get it. And when the owner gets it, they instill that down into their in-house management team. And then there's less hands involved really in getting things in motion. And one thing that's I appreciate about Gatewise is once it's installed, it's super easy to use. It's so
Yeah.
user friendly. It's not complex. It's not something where you need to be sitting in every single day and looking at a checklist coming up every single day and pulling away from the normal day-to-day operations that our on-site teams have. It's just could almost set it and forget it. Like we always recommend, hey, log in to see who might be sharing login credentials, if there's an alert at your access point, like why something might be down. But it's a simple solution.
Do you ever chat with customers like a year in and ask them like, would you go back?
Yeah, and actually my colleague Brooks, he's been really hitting the field in Texas, getting a bunch of customer testimonials and client feedback, sharing it with the team. And like none of our customers are ever going to go back to the way it was before.
Yeah.
After installing Gatewise, they'll probably pay more because we have some new products coming out that are really cool. For example, like a virtual call box, QR code call box that'll completely eliminate those call boxes, but allow that call box function straight through a smartphone.
Mhm.
Offline unit locks. We have the cameras that we talked about, license plate readers, Oh man, we got a lot of things coming out all under one platform. So starts with access control, really. And from
Yeah.
access control, we've been able to build all this up to where the customers trying our new products are so happy.
It's interesting what you said that makes you guys different is the cellular element of it. Cause like I know that a lot of access control products depend on managed Wi-Fi being installed. And
Mhm.
so like that's one more thing that needs to be there as far as infrastructure to work. And you guys don't need Wi-Fi. You guys can run on cellular entirely.
Correct.
So that must be a huge differentiator. Like if I'm looking at a managed Wi-Fi implementation, let's say if I'm Joe and or Joseph and I'm on Gatewise and I'm outbounding to customers, you don't know who's got a managed Wi-Fi or not. You're wasting all those bullets and trying to bring in people that have a blocker in place if you need to have Wi-Fi in place. But you guys
Mhm.
are on cellular, so you can even go to the retro is even there's just less impact on that retro.
Exactly. And that's where like the managed Wi-Fi space is like fairly new to the apartment industry, probably like the last 10 years or so.
Yep.
So anything built in the last 10 years and being built is going to probably have managed Wi-Fi. Being cellular based, we don't even need to attack those properties, and we could
Yeah.
hit every single other property in the nation.
Yeah.
85% that already has an existing solution maybe, or is looking to add one or two. And our system is like Legos. Like say a building wants to start with a car gate, and then 2 quarters down the into the year they get budget to add a fitness center door. Like we just plug and play like Legos. It's not an all or nothing kind of thing.
Mhm. Do you find actually, it's a better question. What's the overall in the market? What's the overall penetration for access control?
Oof, good question. There's a lot of properties that don't have it out there.
It's
Like
got to
a
be like
ton.
95%.
That there's a ton that don't have it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys ever sell into student?
We do actually. We have quite a few student housing properties that use our solution,
Is that a
and
different cycle? Well, go ahead. Sorry. And
kind of a little bit different cycle. But our property management software integration accounts for like all the roommates within one unit. There's no cap on profiles or residents we could have. Like we have all that integration with because student is set up a little bit differently than traditional. They have a
mhm,
lot of residents in one unit.
mhm.
So our integration automatically works with those types of setups as well.
So kind of closing things and wrapping things up here. So previously you were a leasing agent, and then where'd you go after that your leasing agent role?
So it was leasing agent, leasing manager, customer success manager, national account manager, and now director of sales.
And you mentioned that a lot of that some of the opportunities came from your mentorship group.
Correct.
Sure. Can you share a little bit about your mentorship group?
Yeah.
You mentioned it the other day at NHC. I was like, that's really interesting because like
Hmm.
I belong to one like peer mentorship, and I'm
Hmm.
curious to what your experience is like, and maybe you could just talk about how mentorships affect your life.
Yeah. So, growing up, I've always valued mentors. So it's been a thing I sought out ever since I was younger. And as I transitioned from the on-site operations role or inside of the industry to the vendor side, Tara created this mentor group that I quickly joined. Was like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing on this side of the space. I need
Mhm,
help. Would love to just connect with people to see how I could get my feet under me. Honestly, I was overwhelmed. So from there, reached out to a few people. They said yes to being my mentor. Chris Marino is one of them. I consider Adrian a mentor as well, and Joe Summers. And through that mentorship, throughout like the year and a half, 2 years it's been around now, just job opportunities had come up and put my name in the hat for one of them, which is this. And I ultimately got the role. So that's how I landed at this role here. And for me, it's been really impactful because yeah, this side of the industry, the supplier side, the dark side, as people call it, like it's so different, but I enjoy it because I love providing value and building relationships. And I think that's what this side of the space is. It's not like, we've got a new product, you should try us. Let's talk about a portfolio rollout. We do X, Y, and Z. Like I really chose to come to Gatewise because they serve a need and solve a problem in the industry. And there's a lot of growth happening, like a ton of growth. And, it doesn't hurt that Joe Summers is my colleague now and boss, who was my mentor and is my mentor too. So our team, Joe, Jeff, John, Brooks, and myself, Olivia, Mary, Anna on the sales team, like all such a great team to work with. And I'm glad I landed here.
That's awesome. What's the one piece of advice that you would share to people who are starting their career in sales? Trying to find buyers or move to hell yes.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, there's a lot of value in asking for help and reaching out to someone and saying, "Hey, can I bounce an idea off you?" Because you never know where that conversation is going to go and what idea might stem from that. And talking with one of my close colleagues, I don't know if you know Moshe, but he
Moshe's
and I
awesome.
were talking. Yeah, he and I were talking about that. Like, a lot of people just don't ask in this industry. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah,
You never know what's going to happen.
I love it. Who should we talk to next?
Great question. I don't know. Zeke. I think you should talk to Zeke.
I know. I think so too. Now that you bring it up, I gotta.
Zeke, are you on here? Is he on
Yeah,
here?
you better be listening. I'm gonna go ping him again. He's been what do you call it? Called out.
No, Zeke is a brilliant, brilliant guy. He comes from a background outside of multifamily on the tech side, and then
Yeah,
built an SDR function for a tech company in multifamily. So he gets it. He's one of the few that gets it, and I always learn something when I hang out with him.
yeah, me too. And for everyone on the call that doesn't know what SDR is, sales development rep, they're the folks that do the grunt work, that do the hours and the grind. They're the folks that do the outbound, prepare the emails, and I would say SDRs in their function are kind of like, that's how you amplify your ears in the ground. They're the ones that tell you, they can literally nuance a word in the outbound that makes a difference because they're the ones that hear the differences in how they an idea is positioned. It's generally an entry level position that is exceptionally strategic to how you get top of funnel leads. How do people get a hold of you?
LinkedIn, email joseph@gatewise.com. Yeah, that's probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me, sir.
Right on. This is awesome. Everyone here, we'll have this in a podcast probably about a week. Obviously, you'll see the clips on there. Follow Joseph and myself on LinkedIn. Podcasts are on Apple or they're on Spotify. Always please like and subscribe or download. It makes a huge difference to this podcast and this live episodes. This has been a lot of fun, man. This has been super interesting. I really appreciate your comment around ask. I think that you're getting into something that is a bit, it's nested in being vulnerable, right? Like recognizing that you've got a gap and look to close that gap and asking for help. There's what I've learned in this industry in like literally 12 months, like Adrian, as you mentioned, Chris, Adrian, everybody I talk to, doesn't matter. They have been so helpful. And I feel like I have a duty to give back to this industry. It's part of why this LinkedIn Live exists, because we're able to provide a platform to people that maybe they're not aware of or they haven't thought through. And I'm just so grateful at all the lessons that I've been able to learn from everybody I've talked to. Things I've guessed wrong at, things I've been trying but not getting results on, and someone just nudges me the other way. And so I would say I would share that compelling piece of advice, that ask and be humble and seek support. And this would go in your mentorship experience as well. Recognize that, this is not a lonely journey. It is a group journey that everyone is on in this space, both on the dark side or on the manager or owner side. This has been super helpful. Thanks everyone for listening today. Thanks, Joseph. Really appreciate your insights. Hope it's valuable for everybody. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We're good.